A Fistful of Dollars is a classic spaghetti western made in 1967 and stars Clint Eastwood. Like most spaghetti westerns, there really isn't much to the story. It's made by dudes and is made for dudes. Therefore, there is very little character development or even anything that resembles a character arc. It begins with a mysterious figure, played by Clint Eastwood, of course, who rides through a godforsaken town in the middle of nowhere. This guy's so mysterious, he doesn't even have a name. He's called Joe, but that's just what they call him, which is pretty cool. We soon find out that the town is basically run by two families. One is running guns, and the other is running booze. As soon as Joe enters the town, he's told to leave if he wants to live, because only those who are good at killing survive in this town. Well, we soon find out Joe's good at killing. In fact, he's so good at killing that he has a standoff shootout with 4 other men. He is so freaking good at killing, he shoots all 4 of them before they get a shot off on him, and he doesn't even have to raise his gun above his waist or even to aim. Basically, the whole movie revolves around Joe pitting the two families against the other, making some money in the process. In between all the killing and scheming, Joe even finds time to rescue a damsel in distress that had been taken captive by one of the families. Well, specifically by the main bad guy. His name is Ramon, but nobody really cares. He's just the main bad guy, and you know the whole movie is just building up to a shootout between these two. So Ramon finds out that Joe let the girl go and has his men beat Joe within an inch of his life. Does this stop Joe? Well, hell no, he's Clint Eastwood. He still manages to best a couple generic bad guys and get out of town before Ramon goes on a killing spree. Joe then hides out in a cave until he gets his strength back, and then it's on like Donkey Kong. He blows some stuff up just outside of town just so he can walk back into town through the smoke, which is freaking awesome and should be on every man's bucket list of things to do. That is, to blow stuff up and then to walk through all the smoke like a boss. He then kills some generic bad guys and then kills Ramon and leaves town. End of movie. Boom. Because he's Clint Eastwood. Joe. Does this film pass the man test? What I mean by that is, can I tell other men that I watched this film and not feel moderately gay about it? This question almost doesn't even need to be asked regarding this film. It's called A Fistful of Dollars. It's a spaghetti western starring Clint Eastwood, and there are several classic western shootout duels, and he rescues a captive woman. This movie checks almost every man box there is. Well, what about the Christian worldview? Is there anything that resembles a Christian worldview in this film? Well, no, not really, but kind of, maybe, sorta. Joe is a classic anti-hero, which means he's not really a good guy, but he's not as bad as the bad guys, and he only is bad to the bad guys. He exists in a world where evil is real, where injustice is real, and there is no one to do anything about it. Should we take justice into our own hands? No, but what do you do when no one else does? Like the old saying goes, the only thing needed for evil to grow is for good men to do nothing. Now, I'm not advocating for vengeance or for self-justice, but I would say that there is a reason why these types of films resonate with men, and it also brings up an interesting question as to whether or not an avenger of blood is ever acceptable. Now, I know, we have the civil magistrate for a reason, but what do you do if there is no magistrate? Or when the magistrate is worse than everybody else, or has been purchased by all of the bad guys? This film wasn't made to wrestle through those deep moral questions, nor does Joe seem to be governed by justice. Although when he is rescuing generic damsel in distress, she asks him why he is doing it, why he would help her. And he replies, "I knew someone like you once, and there was no one there to help." Joe certainly has a moral code, and just when you think he is only motivated by money, he tells one of the generic bad guys he can keep his money because he, Joe, didn't feel right taking money that he didn't earn. So then, Joe is one of the good guys, but not in the classical modern sense, which is probably good because he's not gay. Nor is there a modern badass female heroine in the film that's better than Joe at everything, telling him what to do through the entirety of the movie. You get the idea that Joe brings a sense of justice in an unjust world with him wherever he goes. But given that he doesn't fit the mold of being the nicest person in the room, speaking favorably of Joe would make many evangelicals nervous. This, too, is wonderful. Let's not forget that David, a man after God's own heart, went and killed 200 Philistines just so he could cut their foreskins off and bring them to Saul as a bridal price for Saul's daughter. Am I saying that we should do that? Not at all. I'm simply pointing out that the world wasn't put together with 2x4s, and that Christians can be just as guilty at creating categories and whitewashing history as any social justice warrior, minus the riots and the statue toppling and the murders and all of the other stuff. What is underlining this film is a man's deep desire for justice and deliverance, which only happens when evildoers are punished. And of course, that is one of the great themes of Scripture. Kill the dragon and get the girl. Overall, I give this film a B. For everything it lacks and for how dated it is now, it makes up for in being generally awesome. And because Clint Eastwood. And because the older I get, the more Clint Eastwoody I get.